Rain hammered the asphalt outside St. Jude's Medical Center, loud enough to drown out the sound of a young nurse's career shattering. 10 minutes earlier, Maya Brooks had disobeyed a direct order and saved a dying man's life. Now she stood on the curb, clutching a cardboard box that held her stethoscope, a half-dead succulent, and a termination letter signed in cold blue ink by the chief of medicine. Her badge had already been deactivated, her access gone, just like that. She thought the worst part would be going home and crying in the dark. She was wrong. The ground began to tremble. Headlights flared through the rain as 10 matte black Chevrolet Suburbans roared around the corner, tires hissing on wet pavement. They moved with military precision, forming a wall of steel that boxed her in against the curb. Maya's breath caught. The tinted window of the lead vehicle rolled down, and her nightmare truly began. St. Jude's Medical Center in downtown Seattle wasn't a place where miracles happened. It was where people ended up when options ran out. A concrete maze that smelled of antiseptic, old coffee, and quiet desperation. For 23-year-old Maya Brooks, 6 months out of nursing school, it was a battlefield disguised as a hospital. She was the youngest nurse, on the 4th floor cardiac wing, which meant the worst shifts, the hardest patients, and the constant criticism of charge nurse Beatrice, a woman with the emotional warmth of a glacier. Brooks, Beatrice snapped, slamming a clipboard onto the nurse's station. Room 412. John Doe. Vitals, catheter check. And don't talk to him. He's agitated. Maya pushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The guy the police brought in? I thought he was stable. He is stable, Beatrice said flatly. He's also rude, refuses to give a name, and smells like low tide. Do your job and don't get sued. Dismissed with a flick of the wrist, Maya grabbed the chart and headed down the dim hallway. It was just past 2 a.m. The hospital had that eerie late-night quiet. Monitors beeping like distant sonar, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Room 412 sat at the very end of the corridor, alone. When Maya pushed the door open, the room was dark except for the green glow of the cardiac monitor. The patient lay motionless, a large silhouette against the white sheets. As she stepped closer, she finally saw his face. Mid-50s, steel-gray hair. Skin weathered like stone. A thick, jagged scar ran from just below his ear to his collarbone, disappearing under the gown. His body looked less like a patient and more like something built for war. "Hi," Maya said gently. "I'm just going to check your blood pressure." His eyes snapped open, gray, sharp, fully alert, predator eyes. "Where am I?" His voice was rough, like gravel dragged across concrete. "St. Jude's Medical Center." "Seattle," Maya replied, wrapping the cuff around his arm. His bicep was solid muscle, tense even at rest. "You collapsed near the docks. Police brought you in." He let out a humorless breath. "Police?" He tried to sit up and instantly winced, grabbing his chest. "Whoa, easy," Maya said, guiding him back down. "You've got 3 broken ribs and a serious heart rhythm issue. You're lucky you didn't code in the ambulance." He stared at her, studying her face like he was memorizing it. "Did anyone come with me?" he asked. "No," Maya said. "Just you." For a second, something like relief flickered in his eyes. Then fear, a deep, dangerous kind. Before Maya could ask another question, alarms suddenly erupted at the nurse's station down the hall. Shouting followed, heavy footsteps, not the hurried steps of hospital staff. These were controlled, deliberate. The man's gaze locked onto the door. "They found me," he whispered. "Who found you?" Maya asked, her pulse quickening. But he was already trying to pull out his 4th. And down the hallway, the elevator doors opened with a soft ding. 6 minutes later, Maya would be fired for endangering hospital liability. 10 minutes later, she would be standing outside in the rain. And 30 seconds after that, 10 black SUVs would surround her. Because the man in room 412 wasn't just a patient. He was a secret someone very powerful wanted erased. And Maya Brooks had just become a witness. If this story pulled you in, you're going to love what's coming next. Subscribe to Hero Revealed for more intense, edge-of-your-seat stories about ordinary people thrown into extraordinary danger. Hit like if Maya did the right thing, and tell me in the comments, would you have broken the rules to save him? Your next favorite story is waiting. You need to stay flat. The man stared at her, analyzing her face with an intensity that made her skin prickle. He glanced at her ID badge. "Brooks, that your name?" "Nurse Brooks," she corrected gently. And you are? He hesitated, his eyes darting to the door. Smith? Just call me Smith. It was a lie, a bad one. But Maya didn't push. In this ward, you learn not to ask questions you didn't want the answers to. She finished her checks, noting that his heart rate was slightly elevated, 105 BPM, but steady. Okay, Mr. Smith, try to rest. Dr. Finch will be doing rounds in an hour. At the mention of the doctor's name, the man's clear-as-throat hand shot out, gripping Maya's wrist. His grip was iron. Finch, the tall one, thin hair, nervous eyes. Mia was taken aback. Dr. Finch is the attending tonight. Yes, do you know him? Clear-as-throat, listen to me. The man hissed, pulling her slightly closer. My stats drop if the monitors go red. Do not let him touch me. Mr. Smith, Dr. Finch is a qualified cardiologist. He's a hack. The man growled, releasing her wrist. And he's on the payroll. Payroll? Whose payroll? Just watch the monitors, Brooks. The man turned his head away, closing his eyes, and checked the dosage on that 4-bag. It smells like almonds. Maya frowned. She looked at the 4-bag. It was standard saline. Saline didn't smell like anything, but the man's paranoia unsettled her. As she walked out of the room, she felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. She returned to the nurse station, her mind racing. Beatrice, who admitted the guy in 412. Beatrice didn't look up from her romance novel. EMT Unit 4. Why? He's paranoid. Said Dr. the Finch is on the payroll, and he thinks his 4 has been tampered with. Beatrice laughed, a dry cracking sound. He's a psychase, Brooks, probably off his meds. Finch is the nephew of the hospital administrator, Clive Patrick. He's untouchable. Don't go spreading rumors unless you want to be scrubbing bedpans in the basement. Mia sat down. But she couldn't shake the feeling. She pulled up the patient's digital file. John Doe admitted 23. Symptoms, syncope, chest trauma. She looked at the medication log. Dr. Finch had ordered a sedative, Metalam, to clear his throat, be administered at 2:30 a.m. if the patient was restless. It was 2:25 a.m. Maya looked down the hall. Dr. Adrian Finch was walking out of the break room, adjusting his white coat. He looked exactly as the patient described. Thinning hair, shifting eyes, sweat glistening on his upper lip. Despite the cool air, he wasn't walking like a doctor on rounds. He was walking like a man with a secret. He headed straight for room 412. Mir's instincts, honed by growing up with a father who was a paranoid ex-C. Up! Screamed at her. She stood up. Where are you going? Beatrice snapped. Just forgot to check his oxygen saturation. Maya lied, grabbing a pulse oximeter and hurrying after Finch. She reached the door of room 412 just as Finch was inside. The door was cracked open an inch. She didn't enter. She peered through the gap. Dr. Finch was standing over the patient, a syringe in his hand. He wasn't checking the chart. He wasn't talking to the patient. He was injecting something into the 4-port, but he hadn't cleaned the port. It was rushed, clumsy. Time to sleep, Admiral, Finch whispered. Admiral. The man in the bed, Smith, was groggy, but he swatted at Finch's hand. Get off. Finch pushed the plunger down. Maya burst into the room. Dr. Finch. Finch jumped, nearly dropping the syringe. He spun around, his face pale. Nurse Brooks, what the hell are you doing? I gave strict orders for privacy. I heard an alarm, Maya stammered, her eyes darting to the syringe. Finch was quickly pocketing. What did you administer? A sedative. He was agitated. Finch snapped, trying to regain his composure. Get out now. Maya looked at the monitor. The heart rate was climbing. 120, 130, 145. His heart rate is spiking, Dr. Maya said, stepping closer to the bed. The patient was gasping, clutching his throat. This looks like an allergic reaction or toxicity. It's a panic attack, Finch yelled, sweat pouring down his face. Leave the room, nurse. That is an order. Beep. The monitor screamed. The waveform on the screen went chaotic. Ventricular tachycardia. He's going into VTAC, Maya shouted. She rushed to the bedside, hitting the code blue button on the wall. Don't touch him. Finch lunged at her. Grabbing her arm. Let nature take its course. He's a DNR. He is not a DNR. Maya shoved Finch back. She was smaller, but adrenaline gave her strength. I saw his chart 5 minutes ago. Full code. I just updated it verbally. Finch screamed, his voice cracking. I am the attending physician. I am calling the time of death. He's not dead yet. The patient's eyes rolled back in his head. He convulsed once, then went limp. The monitor flatlined. A long, high-pitched tone filled the room. A systole. Stop the code, Finch ordered, panting. It's over. Maya looked at the man in the bed. This Admiral. She saw the scar on his neck. She saw the fight in him. and she saw Finch, a man who smelled of fear and guilt, trying to let him die. "No," Maya said. "Excuse me." Finch's eyes bulged. "I said no." Maya jumped onto the bed, straddling the massive patient. She interlaced her fingers, locked her elbows, and slammed her weight down onto his chest. Crack! "Security!" Finch screamed into the hallway. "Get security in here. This nurse is assaulting a corpse." Maya ignored him. 1, 2, 3, 4. She pumped hard and fast, adhering to the rhythm of staying alive. "Come on, Smith. Don't you die on me." The door burst open. Beatrix stood there, mouth agape, followed by 2 burly security guards. "Pull her off," Finch shrieked. "She's gone crazy." "Get the crash cart," Maya yelled, not breaking her rhythm. "Epinephrine 1 milligram charged 200. Do not bring that cart in here." Finch blocked the doorway. "Beatrice." Maya looked up, sweat stinging her eyes. "If you don't get that cart and this man dies, and the autopsy shows whatever Finch just injected him with, you're going to be an accessory to murder." The room went silent for a split. Its second. Beatrice looked at Finch. She saw the sweat, the shaking hands. She looked at Maya, pumping the chest of a man who was turning blue. Beatrice moved. She shoved Finch aside with a hip check that would have made a hockey player proud. Crash cart now. The team swarmed in. The security guards hesitated, unsure who to listen to, but the momentum had shifted. Life-saving measures took precedence over politics. Charging. A respiratory therapist slapped the pads on the patient's chest. Clear. Mia threw her hands up. Thump. The body arched off the bed. The monitor remained a flat line. Resume compressions. Maya dove back in. Her arms burned. Her back screamed. Push. Epi. Given. Finch was in the corner on his phone, whispering frantically. "She's interfering. Yes. Get down here now." 2 minutes passed. It felt like 2 hours. "Check rhythm," Beatrice called out. Maya stopped, breathless. Everyone stared at the screen. "Nothing. Call it." Finch sneered, stepping forward, a smug look returning to his face. "Time of death. 2:35 a. Beep. A pause. Beep. Beep. A jagged, weak but undeniable sinus rhythm appeared on the green screen. "We have a pulse." The respiratory therapist shouted. "BEP is 60/40 but rising." Maya collapsed back against the wall, sliding down to the floor. Her hands were shaking uncontrollably. She looked at the patient. His chest was rising and falling on its own. He was alive. Dr. Finch stood frozen. He looked at the monitor, then at Ma. The look he gave her wasn't just anger. It was hatred. Pure, unadulterated hatred. "You have no idea what you've just done," Finch whispered low enough that only Mia could hear. "You didn't save a life, Brooks. You just ended yours." 5 minutes later, the patient was stabilized and moved to the ICU. Maya was still in room 412, cleaning up the debris of the code when the overhead page crackled. "Nurse Mayor Brooks, report to the administrator's office immediately. Nurse Maya Brooks, administration." It was 2:45 a.m. Administration wasn't open at 2:45 a.m., unless the administrator, Clive Patrick, was already in the building. Maya took a deep breath. She grabbed her stethoscope. She walked out of the room, past the stunned faces of her colleagues. Beatrice didn't look at her. Mia knew she was walking to her execution. She just didn't know that the executioner wouldn't be the only one waiting for her. The elevator ride to the 12th floor was silent and suffocating. The air became cooler, cleaner, and smelled less like bleach and more like expensive mahogany polish the higher Mir went. The 12th floor was the administrative kingdom, a place few nurses ever saw unless they were receiving an award or a pink slip. Maya stepped out into a plush, carpeted hallway. At the end stood a set of double oak doors. Clive Patrick, hospital administrator. She knocked. "Enter." The voice was smooth, cultured, and utterly devoid of warmth. Mia pushed the doors open. The office was massive, overlooking the rain-sicked skyline of Seattle. Clive Patrick sat behind a desk that cost more than Mir's student loans. He was a small man with silver hair and a suit that fit too perfectly. Standing by the window, swirling a glass of amber liquid, was Dr. Adrian Finch. Finch didn't look scared anymore. He looked triumphant. "Miss Brooks," Patrick said, not looking up from a file on his desk. "Please sit." Maya remained standing. "IP. Refer to stand, sir." Patrick finally looked up. His eyes were like beads of black glass. "As you wish. Do you know why you're here?" "Because I saved a patient's life after Dr. Finch attempted to let him die," Maya said, her voice shaking slightly, but her chin held high. "And because Dr. Finch administered an unknown substance to that patient immediately prior to his cardiac arrest." Finch scoffed, taking a sip of his drink. Wild accusations from a hysterical rookie. "I told you, Uncle." "Excuse me, Administrator Patrick." She was manic. "She assaulted me." Patrick sighed, closing the file. "Maya, St. Jude's prides itself on protocol, order, hierarchy. Tonight, you violated all three." He slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was a do not resuscitate order. It was signed by John Doe. The patient signed this upon admission. Patrick lied. The ink looked fresh. The signature was a shaky scroll that looked nothing like the firm handwriting the patient had used to sign the admission consent forms Mia had seen earlier. "That's a forgery," Mia said bluntly. "He told me explicitly he wanted to live. He fought Dr. Finch." Dr. Finch was administering a palliative sedative to ease the passing of a terminal patient, Patrick continued, ignoring her. "You, however, broke a man's ribs. You traumatized a dying soul, and you undermined the authority of an attending physician in front of staff and security." "He's alive," Maya shouted. "He is in the ICU right now. How is he terminal if he's recovering?" Patrick stood up. The pleasant mask dropped. "He is alive because you interfered with nature, but that won't last long. He has complications." The threat hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. "That won't last long. They were going to kill him. They were going to finish what Finch started." "You're firing me," Maya said, the realization hitting her. "Termination for cause, gross misconduct, insubordination, assault." Patrick ticked them off on his fingers. "And effectively immediately, your nursing license is flagged. You will not work in Seattle again. In fact, I doubt you'll work in a veterinary clinic." He tossed an envelope onto the desk. "Your final check. Security will escort you to your locker to collect your personal effects. You are banned from the premises. If you step foot on St. Jude's property after 10 minutes from now, you will be arrested for trespassing." Maya looked at the check. It was hush money or starvation money. She looked at Finch. He was smiling, a cruel, oily smile. "Goodbye, Nurse Brooks. Maybe try retail." Maya felt tears pricking her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She grabbed her ID badge from her scrubs, slammed it onto the mahogany desk, leaving a scratch. "This isn't over," she whispered. "That man in ICU. People will come for him." Patrick laughed. "He's a homeless nobody, Brooks. No one is coming for him. Clears throat, and no one is coming for you." Maya turned and walked out. She didn't slam the door. She closed it softly, sealing her fate. 10 minutes later, she was standing in the rain. The rain in Seattle was cold, but the dread in Mayer's stomach was colder. She stood on the curb of the employee parking lot, Zone C. It was the furthest lot from the hospital entrance, dimly lit and bordered by a thick patch of untended woods. It was 3:15 a.m. In her arms, she held a soggy cardboard box, her stethoscope, a mug that said, "World's okay. Est nurse," a picture of her parents, and the termination letter. She fumbled for her car keys. She drove a beat-up 2014 Honda Civic that required a prayer to start on cold mornings. "What do I do?" she thought. "I can't go to the police. Patrick owns the police commissioner. Everyone knows that. If I go to the press, they'll bury me with lawsuits before the story prints." She unlocked her car door. Vroom. A low rumble vibrated through the soles of her sneakers. It wasn't thunder, it was engines. Big ones. Maya froze. She looked toward the entrance of the parking lot. Headlights cut through the rain. Not one pair, many. A black Chevrolet Suburban, its windows tinted pitch black, tore around the corner. It was moving fast, too fast for a hospital zone. It was followed by another and another, a convoy. Maya dropped her keys. The lead SUV screeched to a halt directly in front of her Honda, blocking her in. The second one pulled up behind her. The others fanned out, creating a perimeter of steel and rubber, sealing off the exit and the hospital entrance. These weren't police cars. There were no sirens, no flashing blues and reds. These were ghost cars, government plates, or cartel. Finch, she thought, panic seizing her throat. He didn't just want me fired. He wanted me silenced. She scrambled backward, dropping her box. The mug shattered on the asphalt. She backed up until her spine hit the wet brick of the security booth. The doors of the SUVs opened in perfect unison. Men stepped out. They were giants dressed in tactical civilian gear, dark cargo pants, tight gray rain jackets, heavy boots. They moved with a terrifying fluid grace. They held weapons, short-barreled carbines, held low, but ready. They ignored the rain. They ignored the security guard who had poked his head out of the booth and promptly ducked back inside, locking the door. They were looking at her. "Please," Maya whispered, holding her hands up. "I didn't tell anyone. I won't tell anyone." A man from the lead vehicle stepped forward. He was different from the others. He didn't have a rifle. He had a sidearm holstered at his hip. He was tall, African-American, with a shaved head and a beard trimmed with geometric precision. His face was hard, but his eyes weren't wild like Finch's. They were calculated, calm. He walked straight toward her. He stopped 3 feet away. The rain beaded on his jacket. "Are you Maya Brooks?" His voice was deep, commanding. Maya nodded, unable to speak. She squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for the gunshot. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, Dad. Look at me," the man ordered. Maya opened her eyes. "I am Commander Silas Graves, U.S. Navy, Special Warfare Group," he said. He reached into his jacket. Maya flinched. He pulled out a tablet, not a gun. He tapped the screen and turned it toward her. It was a live feed, a security camera view, but not of the parking lot. It was inside the hospital, inside the ICU. The video showed room 412, but it was a war zone. 4 men in the same tactical gear as the ones in the parking lot were standing guard around the bed of the John Doe. Dr. Finch was visible in the corner of the frame, pinned against the wall by one of the operators, looking terrified. "Is this the man you saved?" Graves asked, pointing to the patient on the screen. "Yes," Mia squeaked. "Mr. Smith." "Name isn't Smith," Graves said, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. "His name is Admiral Thomas Havoc Sterling, former SEAL Team 6, current Director of Naval Intelligence Operations for the Pacific Rim." Mir's jaw dropped. The homeless guy, the guy with the jagged scar. "We lost contact with the Admiral 18 hours ago," Graves continued, his tone shifting to pure steel. "His beacon went dark. We've been tearing the city apart looking for him. We just picked up a localized ping from his subcutaneous tracker. It activated when his heart stopped and restarted." Graves leaned in closer. "The tracker data tells us his heart stopped for 2 minutes. It also tells us that the only reason it started beating again is because someone refused to stop CPR." He looked at Mir's hands. They were still trembling. "Admiral Sterling is awake," Graves said. "He is groggy. He is drugged and he is pissed off, but he is asking for one thing." "What?" Maya whispered. "The nurse," Graves said. "He said, 'Get me the rookie with the good right hook.'" "That you?" Maya nodded slowly. I broke his ribs." "He's had worse." Graves dismissed it. "Ma'am, we are extracting the Admiral immediately. This facility is compromised. We believe the attempt on his life was an inside job orchestrated by a private military contractor utilizing hospital staff." Graves gestured to the open door of the lead Suburban. The interior was leather, warm and lit by the soft glow of communications equipment. "We need you to come with us," Graves said. "Me? Why?" "Because the Admiral refuses to let any of the hospital staff touch him. He won't let us move him until Nurse Brooks clears him for transport. And quite frankly, Mom, you just made yourself a target for the people who tried to kill him. If we leave you here, you'll be dead by sunrise." Maya looked at her shattered mug on the ground. She looked at the hospital that had just discarded her like trash. She looked at the 10 black SUVs filled with the deadliest men on the planet, waiting for her decision. She looked at Graves. "Can I bring my plant?" Graves blinked, then looked down at the half-dead succulent in the wet box. "Grab the plant, Mom, we're rolling in 30 seconds. Maya grabbed the succulent. Graves opened the back door for her. As she climbed into the massive vehicle, she saw the hospital doors burst open. Clive Patrick and 2 security guards ran out into the rain. Patrick looked furious. He saw the convoy. He saw the men with guns. He saw Maya sitting in the back of the lead SUV. Patrick marched toward them. "What is the meaning of this? This is private property. I am calling the police." Graves didn't even turn around. He simply raised 2 fingers to the operator standing nearest to Patrick. The operator raised his rifle not to shoot, but to block. He stepped into Patrick's path like a wall of brick. Graves climbed into the passenger seat and keyed his radio. "Command to all units. Package is secure. The asset is secure. We are leaving the nest. ETA to Safe House Alpha is 20 mics. He turned to look at Mia in the back seat. "Buckle up, Nurse Brooks. You're part of the Navy now." The engine roared. The convoy peeled out of the parking lot, tires spraying water onto Clive Patrick's expensive Italian loafers as he stood helpless in the rain. As they sped onto the highway, Maya looked out the window. She wasn't just leaving her job, she was leaving her old life. "Commander?" she asked, her voice steadying. "Yes, ma'am." "Dr. Finch." He injected the Admiral with something. Cyanide, maybe, or a paralytic. Graves tapped his headset. "Copy that. We have the syringe. Our medical team is analyzing it. And don't worry about Dr. Finch." "Why?" "Because," Graves said, watching the city lights blur by. "Once we get the Admiral stabilized, he's going to want to have a very long, very private conversation with Dr. Finch. And the Admiral is not a man who believes in malpractice lawsuits." Maya sat back. For the first time in an hour, she felt safe. But the safety was an illusion. Because the people who wanted Admiral Sterling dead weren't just hospital administrators. They were something much bigger. And they were watching the convoy from a drone high above the Seattle skyline. The radio crackled. "Command, this is Talon, Charlie. We have bogies, 2 sedans, no lights pursuing at high speed." Graves' face hardened. He racked the slide of his sidearm. "Nurse Brooks," he said calmly, "keep your head down." The interior of the Chevrolet Suburban was a fortress of leather and blue LED lights, but to Maya, it felt like a submarine taking on water. The rain lashed against the bulletproof glass, distorting the headlights of the cars, swarming behind them. Contact rear. The radio blared, the voice of the operator in the rear vehicle. "Call sign Hammer 2. 2 sedans blacked out. They're accelerating. I see weapons. MP5s. Commander Graves didn't flinch. He didn't even look back. He stared at the navigation screen, his fingers calmly adjusting the zoom on the map. "Rules of engagement are active," Graves said into his headset, his voice conversational as if ordering coffee. "Defensive driving. Do not engage with lethal force unless fired upon. We are in a civilian zone." Pop, pop, pop. The sound was faint, muffled by the heavy armor of the SUV, but unmistakable. Something pinged off the rear bumper of their vehicle. "They're shooting," Maya yelped, clutching her seatbelt with one hand and her succulent with the other. "They are trying to disable the tires," Graves corrected. "Run flats are holding. Hammer 2, you're cleared hot to disable." The SUV behind them swerved. Maya turned her head just in time to see the rear window of the trailing Suburban roll down a few inches. A barrel emerged. A burst of muzzle flashes lit up the rainy night. The lead pursuing sedan swerved violently, its front tire shredded. It spun out across 3 lanes of traffic, slamming into the concrete divider in a shower of sparks. The second sedan, however, was more skilled. It drafted behind a semi-truck, using the civilian vehicle as a shield to close the gap on the convoy. "Professional?" Graves muttered. "These aren't street thugs. That's PMC driving." "PMC?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. "Private military contractors, mercenaries," Graves explained, glancing at the side mirror. "Someone paid a lot of money to make sure the Admiral doesn't wake up." The convoy hit the highway on-ramp, merging onto I-5 South. The speedometer climbed 80, 90, 100 miles per hour. The heavy SUVs moved with surprising agility, weaving through the sparse late-night traffic. "Asset status?" Graves asked. "Stable?" a voice from the back of the SUV replied. A medic was crouched over a stretcher where Admiral Sterling lay strapped in. "BP is fluctuating. He's conscious but groggy. He's asking for his sidearm." "Deny that request," Graves said dryly. Suddenly, a motorcycle roared past them on the shoulder, a sleek black sport bike. The rider was dressed in full black leather's helmet visor down. As the bike pulled parallel to Maya's window, the rider raised a hand. He wasn't waving. He was holding a sticky bomb. A magnetic explosive charge. Bike left side. Maya screamed. Graves saw it. He didn't hesitate. He yanked the steering wheel hard to the left. The massive Suburban lurched, slamming into the motorcycle. It was a brutal, calculated move. The bike clipped the fender, wobbled, and the rider lost control. The bike skidded sideways, sparking across the asphalt, and the rider tumbled into the grassy median. "Threat neutralized," Graves said, correcting the swerve. "Good eyes, Nurse Brooks." Maya was hyperventilating. I just killed a guy. You saved 4 people in this car," Graves said sternly. "Focus on that. We're 5 miles from the extraction point. Hold on." The chase intensified. The remaining sedan was persistent, closing in. But the Navy convoy was a well-oiled machine. The rear SUV Hammer 2 suddenly brake hard. The pursuing sedan, caught off guard, slammed into the back of the armored bumper. The sedan's hood crumpled like accordion paper. Steam hissed. The threat was dead in the water. "Clean," Hammer 2 reported. "All bogies down." Copy, Graves said. Go dark. Wrote Bravo. The convoy exited the highway abruptly, tearing down a dark service road that led into the dense forests of the Cascade foothills. They drove for another 20 minutes in silence, the city lights fading behind them until there was nothing but rain, pine trees, and the hum of the engine. Mia looked at the medic working on the Admiral. Sterling was mumbling, thrashing lightly against the straps. Where are we going? Maya asked. Graves turned off the headlights, switching to night vision goggles. Safe House Alpha. It's an off-the-books facility. No one knows it exists except the President and the Admiral, not even the CIA. The SUV slowed down, approaching what looked like a solid rock face. Graves flashed the high beams in a specific sequence. Long, short, long, short. The rock face groaned. It was a camouflaged hydraulic door. It slid open, revealing a concrete tunnel bathed in red emergency lights. The convoy rolled inside, the heavy doors sealed shut behind them with a definitive thud, locking out the rain, the mercenaries, and the world Mayor used to know. The facility was a marvel of Cold War engineering, updated with 21st century tech. It was a bunker carved deep into the mountain, smelling of ozone and gun oil. As soon as the SUV stopped, the base swarmed with activity. Military doctors in green scrubs and white coats rushed forward. Get the gurney. A tall, balding doctor shouted. Get him to the trauma bay, stat. They pulled Admiral Sterling from the back of the SUV. He looked worse than he had at the hospital. His skin was gray, sweat pouring off him, but his eyes were open, and they were furious. Get your hands off me, Sterling roared, though his voice was weak. He swatted at the balding doctor. Admiral, please, you are in critical condition. The doctor insisted, trying to shine a penlight in his eyes. I am Dr. Aris, Chief Medical Officer for this sector. I need to intubate you to protect your airway. No tubes? Sterling coughed, a wet hacking sound. I said, get the girl. Dr. Harris looked confused. The girl? Sir, we have the best trauma team in the state. The nurse? Sterling yelled, grabbing Dr. Harris's lapel and pulling him down. The one from the parking lot. Brooks. The entire hangar went silent. Everyone turned to look at Maya. She was standing by the SUV, clutching her plant, looking like a deer in headlights. Her scrubs were stained with coffee and sweat. Her hair was a mess. She looked like a child compared to the hardened soldiers and elite doctors around her. Graves stepped forward. Dr. Aris, stand down. The Admiral has given an order. This is ridiculous. Aris scoffed. She's a civilian, a child. Look at her. She's probably never seen a combat wound in her life. She brought him back from the dead an hour ago. Graves said quietly. He looked at Maya. Nurse Brooks, you're up. Mia swallowed hard. She handed her plant to a bewildered commando. Hold this, don't overwater it. She marched towards the gurney. The fear was still there, but the moment she saw the patient, the nurse mode kicked in. It was a switch she couldn't turn off. Everyone back up, she ordered. Her voice wasn't loud, but it projected. Give him air. She stepped up to the gurney. Sterling looked up at her. His breathing was shallow. You came, he rasped. A flicker of relief crossed his granite face. You didn't give me much choice, Admiral, she said, checking his pulse. It was thready. Talk to me. What are you feeling? And don't lie. Chest heavy. Sterling grunted, vision blurring. Metallic taste in my mouth, like pennies. Maya frowned. Pennies, not almonds. Almonds was for the spook. Sterling wheezed to make him panic. But the taste is metal. Maya's mind raced. Metallic taste, arrhythmia, respiratory distress. And Finch used a clear liquid. Dr. Aris stepped in, unable to help himself. It's clearly a myoordial infection caused by stress. We need to administer heparin and nitroglycerin. If you give him nitro, you'll kill him, Maya snapped, not looking up. Excuse me? Aris bristled. I went to Harvard Med, and I went to state school. But I know that a metallic taste combined with cardiac instability suggests heavy metal toxicity or a specific compound like arsenic or thallium. Maya countered. She looked at Sterling's fingernails. There were faint white lines across them. Mace's lines. They usually took weeks to form, but in acute high-dose cases, the nail beds could discolor instantly. Did you drink anything before you collapsed at the docks? Maya asked. Tea? Sterling whispered. With a contact, a man named Silas. No, not Silas. Sylvan. Thallium. Maya said decisively. It's odorless, tasteless. It dissolves in liquid. It causes the heart issues, the metallic taste, the weakness. and Finch injected him with something to accelerate it. Probably potassium chloride to mimic a heart attack. Thallium? Iris laughed. That's a KGB poison from the Cold War. Nobody uses that. The people who chased us on the highway aren't exactly modern corporate types, Graves interjected. They're old school. Maya turned to Graves. I need Prussian blue radio. It's the antidote for thallium, and I need it now, or his kidneys will shut down and he'll go into permanent cardiac arrest. Dr. R.S. crossed his arms. We don't stock obscure antidotes based on the hunch of a temp nurse. I am proceeding with the cardiac protocol. He reached for a syringe of nitroglycerin. Don't do it, Maya warned. Eris uncapped the needle. Secure. Itty. Remove her. 2 guards stepped forward. Click. The sound was small but echoed loudly in the cavernous room. Admiral Sterling had pulled a pistol from the holster of the medic standing next to him. His hand was shaking, but the barrel was pointed directly at Dr. Eris's chest. She said. Sterling growled, his eyes burning with a terrifying intensity. Prussian blue. Dr. Eris froze, the needle hovering inches from the foreport. He looked at the gun. He looked at the Admiral. Commander Graves. Riss squeaked. Graves shrugged. I'd listen to him, Doc. He's a worse shot when he's dizzy, which means he might hit you in the groin instead of the chest. R slowly lowered the needle. He turned to a nurse. Check the toxicology stores. See if we have Prussian blue. 3 minutes later, the nurse returned with a dusty bottle of capsules. We have it. Expired 6 months ago, but sealed. It'll work, Maya said. She took the bottle. She opened 2 capsules, dissolving the powder into a cup of water. Admiral, you need to drink this. It's going to taste like blue paint. Sterling holstered the gun. He took the cup from Mara's hand. His fingers brushed hers. His skin was burning hot. Bottoms up, he whispered, and down the blue sludge. He grimaced, coughing, but kept it down. He handed the cup back to Ma. Now, Sterling said, his voice already sounding a fraction stronger. Or maybe it was just the sheer force of his will. Get everyone out except Graves and her. Dr. Eris looked insulted, but he knew when he was beaten. He signaled his team to leave. The bay cleared out, leaving only the hum of the ventilation fans. Sterling lay back, closing his eyes. The immediate danger of the heart attack seemed to be passing as the antidote began to bind the toxin in his gut. You got a name, nurse? Sterling asked, eyes still closed. My Brooks. Well, Maya Brooks. Sterling opened his eyes. The gray steel was back. You just stepped into a pile of crap so deep you're going to need a snorkel. You know who tried to kill me? Finch. Finch is a puppet, Sterling spat. The man pulling the strings is Garrison Blackwell. Graves stiffened. Blackwell Defense, the Pentagon's biggest contractor. The same, Sterling said. I found proof. Blackwell isn't just selling weapons, they're manufacturing threats. Biological agents, testing them on homeless populations in Seattle to sell the cures to the highest bidder, room 412. I wasn't just a patient, I was part of the cleanup operation. They thought they missed one. Sterling looked at Mayer. They know you saved me, he said grimly, which means Blackwell knows who you are. He has your face, he has your name, and he has resources that make the CIA look like the Boy Scouts. Maya felt a cold pit in her stomach, so I can't go home. Home? Sterling laughed. A dry, humorless sound. Kid, you're dead. As far as the world is concerned, Maya Brooks died in a car accident tonight on I-5. That's the story Graves is going to plant in the morning. Maya stared at him. What? It's the only way to keep your family safe, Graves added gently. If Blackwell thinks you're alive, he'll go after your parents to get to you. If you're dead, the trail ends. Maya felt the tears finally spill over. So I have nothing. You have a job, Sterling said. He tried to sit up, wincing. I need a medic. Someone who isn't on the payroll. Someone who can think on her feet and isn't Afra. ID to break a few ribs. He extended a hand. It was large, calloused, and scarred. Welcome to the Ghost Fleet, Lieutenant Brooks. Maya looked at the hand. She looked at Graves, who gave her a solemn nod. She thought about Beatrice, about Finch, about the rainy parking lot and the life that had been stolen from her in the blink of an eye. She wiped her tears. She took the Admiral's hand. It's Maya, she corrected, and I'm going to need a bigger paycheck than what St. Jude's was giving me. Sterling grinned. It was the first time she'd seen him really smile. It was terrifying. Done. 3 days had passed since the extraction. 3 days of Maya existing in a concrete bunker that didn't officially exist. She had learned how to field strip a Glock 19, though she hoped never to use it. how to insert an 4 in the back of a moving vehicle, and most importantly, she had learned the truth about why her life had imploded. Admiral Sterling sat at the head of a metal briefing table. He looked better. The color had returned to his face, though the Prussian blue was still working its way through his system. He wore a simple black t-shirt that showed off the tapestry of scars on his arms. "Gentlemen and Maya," Sterling began, projecting a holographic map onto the table. "This is the Blackwell Secure Data Center. It's located 20 meters outside of Tacoma, disguised as a logistics warehouse for a grocery chain." The map zoomed in. Heat signatures showed guards patrolling the perimeter. "Blackwell knows we survived," Sterling continued. "He knows we have his name. Tonight at 0:20 hours, his systems are scheduled to do a hard wipe. If that happens, the evidence of the biological testing vanishes. We have to secure the physical server blades before that wipe occurs." Graves leaned forward. "Intel suggests a heavy presence. Mercenaries, the same crew that hit us on I-5. They're expecting us." "Good." Sterling smiled coldly. "I hate disappointed guests." He turned to Maya. She was wearing tactical gear now, ill-fitting but functional. A medic's pack was strapped to her back, heavy with supplies she had personally requisitioned. "Maya, you stay in the Bearcat with the comms officer," Sterling ordered. "You're our medical fallback. If someone goes down, we drag them to you. You do not enter the building." "Clear?" "Clear," Maya said, her stomach doing backflips. The raid began in silence. The Ghost Fleet moved like smoke. They breached the perimeter fence without triggering a single sensor. Maya sat in the armored vehicle a half-mile out, watching the helmet cam feeds on the monitors. It looked like a video game, green and grainy. "Breaching," Graves whispered over the comms. On the screen, the back door of the warehouse blew inward way with a suppressed thud. The team flooded in, then chaos. Contact front. Gunfire erupted. The video feeds shook violently. The warehouse wasn't full of groceries, it was a fortress of server racks and catwalks. Muzzle flashes lit up the dark aisles. "Man down, man down." It was Graves' voice. "Operator hammer 3 is hit. Leg artery, heavy bleed. Drag him out." Sterling barked over the radio. "Pinned down." Graves shouted, "We can't move him, he's in the open." Maya stared at the screen. She saw the operator on the floor clutching his thigh. The blood was black in the night vision, pooling fast. A femoral artery bleed. He had 3 minutes, maybe less. "He's bleeding out," Maya said to the comms officer next to her. "Protocol says we hold position," the officer said, typing frantically. Maya looked at the screen. She looked at her medical bag. Protocol had gotten her fired. Protocol was for people who wanted to watch people die. She grabbed her bag, opened the door. Negative. The Admiral said. Maya punched the manual release on the door. "Tell the Admiral I'm coming in." She jumped out of the Bearcat and sprinted towards the warehouse. The rain was falling again, soaking her instantly. She could hear the gunfire, now loud and cracking like thunder. She reached the breech door. Bullets were chewing up the concrete frame. She dove inside, sliding on the slick floor. "Brooks!" Sterling's voice roared over her earpiece. "Get back to the vehicle! Cover me!" She screamed back, surprising herself. She crawled towards the fallen operator. Bullets sparked off the server racks above her head, raining sparks and plastic shards down on her. She reached the soldier. He was pale, shock setting in. "I got you," she yelled over the noise. She ripped his pant leg open. The wound was jagged. She jammed her knee into his groin to apply pressure point control, ripping a toricate from her vest. "Suppressing fire!" Graves yelled. The SEALs unleashed a wall of lead, forcing the mercenaries on the catwalk to duck. Maya twisted the windlass on the Torreset until the bleeding stopped. "Move! We have to move!" She grabbed the soldier's drag handle. Graves was there a second later, grabbing the other side. Together, they hauled him behind a heavy generator. As Maya checked the soldier's vitals, she looked across the warehouse floor. In the center of the room, behind a wall of glass, was the main server room. And inside, frantically pulling hard drives, was a man in a white lab coat. Dr. Adrian Finch. He wasn't dead. He wasn't in jail. He was here, wiping the evidence. Maya felt a surge of rage so sharp it scared her. Through the glass walls of the server room, she locked eyes with Finch. He saw her. Recognition hit him like a punch, his face drained of color. He knew exactly who she was, the nurse he tried to silence, the loose end he failed to cut. Finch grabbed a metal briefcase from the server rack and bolted for the rear exit. "He's running!" Maya shouted. "Finch has the drives!" Sterling stepped out from behind a forklift, face streaked with grease and blood. He saw Finch take off. Graves, secure the wounded, Sterling ordered. Brooks, stay down. Then he vaulted over a conveyor belt and gave chase. Finch burst through the back door into the loading dock, rain pouring down in sheets. His hands shook as he punched in the keypad to open the outer gate. It slid up just enough for him to stumble into the storm. Sterling was faster. He tackled Finch hard, both men slamming onto the wet asphalt. The briefcase skidded away across the concrete. Finch scrambled backward, slipping, panicked. He yanked a small pistol from his coat. "Stay back, I'll shoot!" Sterling rose slowly. He didn't even raise his weapon. He just walked forward through the rain. "You tried to kill me in a hospital bed, Adrian," Sterling said, voice low and deadly calm. "You really think a gun changes that?" Finch's hand trembled violently. I was following orders. Blackwell made me. You betrayed your oath." A new voice cut through the storm. Maya stood in the warehouse doorway. She held the briefcase. Finch looked at her like a drowning man spotting land. "Maya, please. We're both medical professionals. We heal people." "I heal people," Maya said, voice shaking but unbreakable. "You trade lives for contracts." Finch swung the pistol toward her. Bang! Finch cried out, the gun clattering from his hand as he collapsed, clutching his bleeding shoulder. Sterling lowered his weapon. "That," he said coldly, "was for the nurse." He kicked the pistol away and zip-tied Finch's wrists. "You're going to live, Adrian," Sterling added. "And you're going to tell a federal grand jury everything you know about Garrison Blackwell." Sirens wailed in the distance. Not police. Military. The cavalry. Sterling walked over to Maya and gently took the briefcase from her hands. "You disobeyed a direct order," he said. "I saved a life," she replied. Sterling glanced back at the warehouse, at his team, alive because she refused to walk away. A faint smirk tugged at his mouth. "Yeah," he said. "You did. Good work, sailor." 6 months later, sunset painted the sky orange over a quiet airfield in Virginia. A sleek private jet waited on the tarmac, engines humming. Maya Brooks walked toward it, carrying a duffel bag. And a now thriving succulent. She didn't wear scrubs anymore. She wore a flight suit. On her shoulder, a patch, a skull wearing a nurse's cap, crossed with a syringe and a trident. Ghost Fleet Medical Corps. Commander Graves waited by the stairs. "You ready, Lieutenant?" "Ready," Maya said. "Where to?" "Blackwell's network is fractured but not dead," Graves said, handing her a dossier. "We tracked stolen biosamples to a port in Macau, wheels up in 5. Maya looked at the file. Dangerous, insane. Nothing like the cardiac wing at St. Jude's. She smiled. She had lost her old life, but she'd found something bigger. A team, a mission, a purpose. When the black SUVs came for her, she didn't stay the victim. She became the storm. "Let's go save the world," Maya said, climbing the jet stairs. As the aircraft roared into the sky, she looked down at the shrinking lights below. Somewhere in a supermax prison, Dr. Finch sat in a cell. And somewhere in a secure vault, the truth was safe. The rookie nurse was gone. The operator had arrived,